This is NFA Talk, the show that talks about guns and gun rights, keeping you up to date with what's currently going on, from the newest guns, promotions, and events, plus how we're lobbying for your rights.
All right, we're back with another episode of NFA Talk. How's everybody doing this evening? I'm Jordan Vandenhoff, and I'm here with Sheldon Clare, the national president, and our lobbyist, Charles Zach. Good evening, guys.
Hi, Jordan. Hello, Charles. I hope everybody's doing well. I see you guys out in Ontario got your lockdown extended into June now. That can't be very much fun.
No, but the nice thing is, though, he's opening up the ranges and the golf courses, so outdoor activities are going to be starting to opening up. So I'm locked and loaded, ready to go to the range.
Awesome. Me too. Yeah, we've never really shut down our ranges here, so we've been a little bit more fortunate about being able to get some pew time in. So that's great. I was outside a bit today fighting with the dandelions and arguing with my pull cord on my lawnmower. So I got it stripped out in the backyard there, ready for me to go put it back together again after we're done here today. So it's that time of the year, that's for sure.
Here's a tip for you. Use new gas.
It was the pull cord that broke.
Oh, the pull cord broke. Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all pulled apart to fix the pull cord. I know about the new gas trick. Not my first flamethrower ride.
So I think the first on the agenda tonight, I guess we'll talk about the Nfa Agm that just passed a couple Saturdays ago. It was greatly attended. Unfortunately, with the pandemic that's going around, we were stuck doing it virtual for a second year in a row. But this year it was even more attended than it was the previous year. There was a lot of interaction from our members. We gave the people the floor to talk, and it was great to have that communication with our members, and everybody that showed up had different ideas of what to do, and it was good times. It was a long meeting. It was about 4 hours, but we had a lot of questions, and I think everybody walked away happy with it.
Well, thanks, Jordan. I think it went as well as it could go for a virtual meeting. I mean, everybody's getting kind of Zoomed or StreamYard or online platformed out by all of this. I know I certainly am. I know most of us would really rather have the social interaction, to be able to have the one-on-one conversations and all of that. And essentially, our AGM is in effect a business meeting anyway. I mean, the biggest part of that was going through our audited financial statements and our budget and responding to questions from members in that regard. That, I think, took the most of the time. We, of course, had our director's reports, president, legal report, and so on. All of those are important for members to hear and to make sure that they're informed when they're voting on the various issues that were affected. The other big thing that came out of the agenda, of course, was the motion to condemn the Liberals, which members have been emailed and written to in regards to doing that, and that overwhelmingly passed. That was great to see the huge outpouring of support for that response, and we'll be taking that to the Liberals in a public way very, very soon. We've still got to figure out the nuances of exactly how we're going to do that, but that's in the hopper to happen very soon. So yeah, it was a good AGM. As good as you can expect it for being virtual, but hopefully we're back in the saddle in reality and real face to face, and maybe a mixed mode meeting would be the way to go, so that we can have people attend from all over the country, as well as having a local presence in one part of the country again.
Absolutely. So some of the key
Quebec, right?
I believe our plan is to go to our schedule as it was. We were supposed to hold our meeting near Montreal, and I think that's what the plan is for next time, is to go to that old part of Canada and have our meeting right there in the belly of the beast, where so much agitation for gun control seems to be birthed.
Right. And so some of the key points of the AGM, we did already post up on our social media. Sheldon, you gave a great speech, and Blair Hagan gave a good informational speech. He touched a lot on the new CFO ruling, or they better defined it, I guess, with the certificates, and how the original certificate you receive is not really used as an ATT, and the problems that it causes. Because if you're allowed to use that as an ATT to bring it home from the store that you've purchased it, or from where you've purchased it, then what's the difference between taking it from your house to the range? And the CFOs kind of got together and clarified it, and they say, no, you can't use that to go to the range. You have to wait for the original, or the final copy, I guess the cream colored copy that you get in the mail from the RCMP.
And my response to that is, think of all the children that saved and all the banks that stopped from having been robbed, right? That it's just another bureaucratic barrier into a system that is not about service. It's about stopping you from enjoying the use of your firearms. It's stopping you from being encouraged to buy them. It's not about serving your interests. And that's, I think, the hard thing for many firearms owners to understand is they're used to Service Canada, right? They're used to having the government be their servant. Well, the Firearms Centre is not there to serve you. It's there to be a barrier. And this is certainly part of that decision.
Kind of a pain in the ass, really.
Well, it doesn't. And like I said, I wonder how many children it saved today, that decision. Let me think. None? I wonder how many banks or 7-Elevens it stopped from being robbed. None. I wonder how much violence in the world it terminated and ended. Didn't change a thing. So, this is another stupid, useless bureaucratic activity that serves no interest.
I mean, you can almost say that for the whole firearms program.
Pretty much.
That, Jordan, is my point.
Right. To that point as well. I mean, when I'm talking to MPs and senators and MLAs and municipal leaders as well too. I mean, they are starting to get it now. The narrative that, well, if you take away all the guns from law-abiding firearms owners, the gun bangers will stop shooting in the streets of Toronto. That just doesn't make any sense to them anymore, right? But I say, okay, fine, but look at all the other things that are also wrong with the firearms regime. There's a lot of things like that in there that do not advance public safety. And they pause for a second and they go, you're right. And we have the empirical evidence to support that.
Well, we have better than empirical evidence. We've got scholarly reviewed articles that demonstrate research that show that none of this has had any effect whatsoever on the activities of the criminal element in our society. The people who choose to make bad choices, the people who are out there robbing people, committing violent crimes, they don't care about any of these rules. The rules mean nothing in terms of stopping crime. So, there's that has a clear situation that we're faced with every day. So good on you, Charles, for bringing up those issues in the forums of the halls of power.
Unfortunately, I think we're headed into a summer that's going to heighten the situation again and demonstrate that to everybody. We're on track. I know I was just talking to a senator today. He's getting information from Vancouver. The place is a mess. Toronto's ongoing. Things are escalating. I've heard, police chiefs actually call it no longer, a violent crime. It's a form of domestic terrorism, right? And this is all due to the Liberals not addressing the root cause of this problem and focusing and scapegoating law-abiding firearms owners because they don't know what they're doing. They're inept, right? They need to move aside and let somebody else do the job.
Well, and the thing is, no matter who's in that chair or who's in Parliament, we have to hold them all accountable, right? Because we've had promises given and broken before, and we've got to make sure that no matter what, we hold them to the fire. But again, as we've said consistently, the best opportunity for us to defeat the Liberals is to make sure that we go after those marginal ridings where there were Conservative candidates who were second place by just a few percentage points, and make sure that those Conservative candidates win their seats. And then we can stop this. They've committed to stop it. Aaron O'Toole was very, very clear with us about how he would have a review of the Firearms Act, how he would repeal C-71, he'd get rid of the Order in Council, all of that nonsense. So that's where my money is going, and that's where my vote's going, and that's where what we need to have happen if we're going to win. And I know there are lots of issues that everybody's angry about out there, and there are issues that people have with the Conservatives or with the Liberals. People say, one's just a lighter version of the other and all that. Get involved and change it. Get involved with your riding association and do the work that's necessary to make the changes that are going to help this happen. Because if we don't do that, we're going to have an even bigger problem for the next 4 years. I don't think this country can take 4 or 5 more years of Trudeau. No way.
I definitely can't.
Nope.
And what we're hearing now too is that the Conservatives are actually closing down nomination raises. So something's coming, right? But now is the time to contact your local, Conservative VDA. Get involved in some way, get on the board, or volunteer to help with the upcoming election as a door knocker or whatever, right? Or support that candidate out there. We need all the boots on the ground to make this happen. This is really a tipping point.
Yeah, and I mean, when we were going through our budget for this fiscal year, Charles, I mean, one of the key elements of that budget was the allocation of hundreds of thousands of dollars towards the defeat of the Liberals in the next federal election through our campaign strategy that we're going to be rolling out here. And no one has ever done anything like that to that extent in this country from a firearms rights advocacy position. And I doubt that any other group or organization could even think about doing that. I mean, we're the one with the resources. We're the big kid on the block, and we're going to be swinging our hammer hard to make sure that the Liberals are swept from their government.
Absolutely.
Position.
We're going all in. This is make it or break it. If they get another 5 years, the writing's on the wall. They're going to come for everything. They are starting now, and all he needs is a majority, and he's just going to push it through. And look at C-21. Your BB guns, your paintball guns, your airsoft guns. Where does it stop with this Trudeau government?
Well, it never stops.
Exactly. Exactly.
It never stops with the Liberals. The Liberals always want more, and they've wanted more since 35. You had the gun legislation back then, Mackenzie King. You have the legislation that Trudeau the elder brought in 78, C-51. Of course, Kim Campbell made her own contributions to that. That's a red Tory. Bringing in C-80, which failed, and then C-17, which passed, which brought in a lot of the things that we complain about to this day, including magazine restrictions, the banning without compensation of many firearms. She brought in orders in council to do that. And then, of course, the plastic FAC and increase to the fees. And then, of course, the Liberals just doubled down on that, turned the FAC, which was just a police records check, into a license that you had to have in order to possess firearms. This is the thing we're all suffering under now. And then more and more categories to firearms, and more firearms being jammed into categories.
Your get out of jail free card, right?
What's interesting about this thing is that it's nothing new, right? I mean, this has been rehashed many times in history. I was just watching the Nuremberg trials, the movie, the other day, and seeing the parallels and the false narratives and how the bureaucracy adapts to a wrong-headed ideology and then persecutes, like us, and scapegoats people for the sake of advancing this ideology. So this has happened before. It was wrong then, it's wrong now. We have the models. People should look at that and be fearful of where this can lead.
Absolutely. So what else do we have in the news? We have let's go with the long gun registry, RCMP. Does it still exist or does it not exist? They're saying that now we're hearing that they never deleted it. I'm not surprised at all.
Well, we went to court about that, right? I mean, you remember that? Like, we went to court and we were an interviewer and won that case that said they had to destroy the records. We were there for that game. And the Conservatives said they would destroy it. They ordered it destroyed. The police came back and reported it destroyed. And apparently that's not easy to happen. And I can understand all kinds of reasons why it isn't easy to happen. People just keep copies of stuff. You bring your little flash drive in there and you copy the whole program. Okay, I guess I see that. Or maybe Quebec wanted a copy, so they kept it so they could run their own little regime out there. All right, I see. But the fact of the matter is they were told to destroy it, and they should have destroyed it.
True enough.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there needs to be heads rolling for this.
Yep.
There needs to be accountability in the public sector for not following the wishes of Parliament. And I don't think this government that we have now has got the guts or the inclination to hold people accountable for something that they clearly support.
Absolutely.
You
So we have one comment in from 1AB about pinning onto a muzzle brake from a 16-inch rifle to make it into a non-restricted class. I don't know if they changed that ruling. I thought at one point we were allowed to extend and bring it into the non-restricted class, but I think you're going to have to make a call on that one to a CFO and get clarification for that one.
I wouldn't call it a CFO. I'd call it a lawyer. But unless it's a permanent change to that length of that barrel, I don't think it doesn't count.
No.
Well, when he says pin, I'm guessing because back in the day, what was it? The RGB, they used to, for the Canadians, they used to put a muzzle brake on and they would weld it and it would just bring it over to that 18.6. So
that's a permanent change.
I'm guessing if you apply it this way, it would be legal. But then again, we're not lawyers, so I would consult a lawyer or talk to the CFO or a gunsmith as well. Definitely.
Once again, this speaks to the arbitrary nature of these regulations, right? You don't know if you're in compliance or not until somebody points the finger at you and you end up in court, and it costs you thousands of dollars to basically, prove the regulation right or wrong. And that, how can you do that? That's just a ridiculous thing to do.
And how many children will this regulation save? How many banks will this stop from being robbed? How many 7-Elevens is this going to prevent from being robbed? None. It does nothing to do with that.
Totally.
At this point, have you had enough yet?
Well, that's just the question. That's the question. That's the focus point of our campaign this time, is to get people to ask that, to respond to that question. Have you had enough yet? I mean, it's been scandal after scandal. It's been corrupt game after corrupt game, and I think our recent cartoon, I don't know if you've got that handy, Jordan, but it made it very clear that these guys can't go a day without a scandal. Like, if there isn't a scandal, I think they sit around and decide what it's going to be. Like, what are we going to tell them we did now? It's just insane. It's irresponsible.
I think the real issue here is that this government unabashedly has gotten into a situation of casual dishonesty. It just lies constantly, and it makes no promises about anything else. So of course that's going to degrade everybody's trust in the government. The rule of law and everything else. So this, once again, the Liberals are just destroying our faith in our government institutions, with this wanton disregard of the way things should be done.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. They see themselves as the natural governing party. When they are forced out of power, it's always been about scandals, and they usually try to deflect the scandals into some sort of a big issue. This has always been their strategy, right from the King Bing thing in the 1920s, to distract from the customs scandal, when they were busy playing games with people's public money there. And now we see the same kinds of scandals again and again. The Defense Department's full of them right now. There's just, it's outrageous.
It is.
It's outrageous. And it's not the country that I think most Canadians have values that they associate with. This, everyone talks about what's a Canadian, what values does a Canadian hold? Well, my values are not liberal values. And I don't think that those liberal values are the values of an awful lot of people in this country. So I get really offended when I hear Trudeau or other liberals going on about how Canadian values, or most Canadians think, or most Canadians believe, or Canadians want this. I don't think that's something they can say.
Absolutely not. So, Charles, let me ask you a question. Has there been any whispers on C-21? or are we still on standby?
Well, you know what? It was a week ago. They had a pretty robust discussion about the second reading discussion in Parliament, and we expected it to, come up again this week. I checked the agenda. It's not on the horizon. I guess they're mired down in other things like C10, and other scandals that they're building, at the moment. But we don't know. This thing sort of rolls out a couple days before, if we're lucky. Last time I checked the agenda, and it wasn't even on the docket per se. We just found out, because it started, and I noticed it, but I don't know what's going on there. It looks like it's been delayed, but could start up next week. It's going to be a big surprise for everybody.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it all depends. If, of course, there's an election called early, then it's off the order paper. But there's still all the committees it would have to go through to be brought to Parliament, and then if it's passed through Parliament, it has to go to Senate. And then once the Senate makes its changes, then it has to go through its committee process, of course, to do that as well. Then it goes back to Parliament. So it's not a quick process to pass these bills unless they have a majority, and they don't. But they are getting an awful lot of support from the NDP and from the Bloc in order to pass their legislative agenda. And they're talking about doing things that are going to be very, very expensive, and we simply cannot afford to do. And we have to start saying no.
I think people need to know, too, that we have formally applied to be witness, in the SECU committee. Once that is punted from Parliament after second reading to the committee for review, hopefully our new status of being condemned doesn't thwart that. We shall see. I don't know how that's going to roll out. I've talked to a couple of MPs about this, and they just shake their heads. They just can't believe that, this kind of shenanigan is going on, at a formal committee like that. But anyway, we shall see how that goes.
Yeah, we should have a chat about how that came about sometime.
Well,
you heard it here first, people.
Yeah, I have the police records. I'm waiting for them from, for my Freedom of Information request. So, unfortunately, it kind of landed in my lap because Pam Damoff is in my writing. So, anyway, we can talk about that in a different show.
We'll follow up on that one. So, Charles, you also mentioned C10. Now, C10 is basically they're taking away our freedom of speech. They're going to govern our internet. This is really going to affect firearms and the firearms industry because it gives them free range to decide what people are able to see on your Facebook, Instagram, and everything. And that's becoming a concern for us as well, because they're going to try to shut groups like ours down, right?
Well, the idea of the C10 is to treat it like a utility, right? Like the other big media organizations out there, and have it controlled by the CRTC and ultimately by the CBC. Well, we know where that goes, right? I mean, they're going to be looking at content in terms of nationalism. There'll have to be a content of Canadian content, but they will be vetting the messages that are out there. What's interesting about this is that they really haven't really defined exactly what a broadcaster is per se. The obvious ones are out there. There's large content makers out there that are organized, big players. But, the definition is so loosey-goosey that, even, Jordan van de Hoff, from his blog, can, create something, and that will come under scrutiny and come under the standards of this new censorship.
Well, this is 100% Canadian content, so I don't know how they can dispute this.
Well, that's right. This is 100% Canadian content. And I mean, and when it isn't, we're bringing in people from international organizations. Like we brought Mauro Silvas in from the WFSA. That foreign content is directly relevant to Canadians, because when we're talking about the Arms Trade Treaty and the Program of Action on Small Arms and Light Weapons, which Charles has just attended the ATT stuff, and we're looking at more meetings on that coming up in July and also in August. And has members know we're there to help support people at the United Nations to make sure that our views are heard, and that often we're the only voice for the firearms community internationally that is speaking up. So we're there, and we don't back down. And don't like that. They don't like that very much at all.
Yeah, you know what? That whole process, like Sheldon, it's a runaway train. We get on the tracks once in a while, but they've really stacked things there. The UN is actually funding groups to come in and persuade them according to their own narrative. It's we go there and we see this, and we put things into the record, but this is something that they're ramrodding down through everybody. And fortunately, in terms of the ATT, it's a really bad policy, but faith in it is really waning. We talked about this before. Countries are no longer supporting it financially. They're not reporting. I've set up a lobby with the Canadian delegation that was there, and we're going to start talking about some of the things that are kind of vague, in the reporting template. For instance, I discovered that assault rifle is a term that they use in the template to report how many so-called assault rifles they have. There's no formal definition within the treaty that speaks to that. Every country makes up their own list according to whatever they believe to be an assault rifle. Well, we'll be talking to the Canadian delegation to find out what that actually means. Probably mean more paintball guns and God knows what. But we'll be reporting on that soon.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's important for people to follow the money when someone says the UN is funding. What that actually means is there are countries at the United Nations that are putting money towards this. And the Arms Trade Treaty is very heavily supported by a few countries, right? One of those countries that contributes a lot to the Arms Trade Treaty is Canada. There's also money from Germany and Denmark, the United Kingdom, Republic of Ireland is a contributor, and there are several other countries, European ones in particular, who could put money in far beyond their level of participation in order to keep the thing alive. And it's really quite offensive because our tax dollars are going to very questionable sources in funding these activities at the United Nations. And I think it behoves people to understand exactly what our country is doing at these places and to call our politicians to account for it.
Well, like you said, we're putting in hundreds of thousands of dollars into this thing, and it's a black hole. There is no formal accountability as to where it goes. It goes into this volunteer fund, which is dispersed through multiple committees and subcommittees and subcommittees, and there's no transparency here. There's no auditing. We don't know where our money has gone. So if I was an auditor, I'd be aghast at the whole situation. And Canadian taxpayers need to start asking some real poignant questions here. Where is this money going?
Yeah, well, and that's just it. And I mean, when the Liberals signed on to the Arms Trade Treaty, and they said that they were going to do that, and they did very soon after they came into office, it was not something that anybody wanted. I mean, I was embarrassed because when we had Harper there, and Harper actually was a very strong opponent to the Arms Trade Treaty, very critical of it, and we had our circumstances there. I could go there, and they had the Obama regime. And I was like, yeah, well, in Canada, we're not putting up with this crap. And then all of a sudden it flipped to the Liberals, and there we were holding the bag, and it was embarrassing. And I just appalled at what our presence looks like internationally nowadays. It's just
well, I'm hopeful that the UNATT will die a slow death. Like I said, there isn't, as much as there's a lot of verbatim, about the values and principles of this thing and doing things, it's ineffective in what it's supposed to do. And like I said before, the countries are losing faith in the system, and every year it gets worse. I mean, that UNATT meeting I had, they were practically begging people to send in their reports and send in their money, right? It's
all about money.
It's a broken system, right? So it's unless they make this some mandatory situation somehow, I can't see how they're going to do it. This thing will fail.
Well, part of the Arms Trade Treaty is all about ensuring that countries that are major arms suppliers are in control of what they're doing. For example, you see Great Britain it has a big arms industry. Well, it's making sure it has its way, and it has its China. The United States, of course, has pulled out of the arms trade treaty, and more power to them. But I bet under Biden we'll see that flip again. So we'll see what happens. I know the American Firearms Rights Organization, the NRA, is very much on top of what's happening with their political situation down there. It has the Second Amendment Foundation, another really solid group of people who've occasionally had us down guest speakers. But yeah, it's something we're paying attention to, and it's something that we're being quite vigorous in going to and defending our rights, so that we don't have to hear about something later, right? That we weren't there and we didn't fight it. I don't ever want to hear that. The world's run by those who show up, right? And if we're showing up.
It's important to also note for people out there listening about this is that, we have long since condemned this thing as being, an intrusive thing into our sovereign right to control our domestic, exporting markets, right? And, the proponents say, oh, no, if you just take a look at the preamble in the ATT, it says right there that you will have control. Well, I went through the preamble, and of course it is there. It speaks about something like that. But then I went through the articles 1 through 24, and there's nothing in there. Well, here's the rub, right? The preamble is not law, right? That's just an intro to the articles that are international law. So The preamble means nothing. So the Americans have recognized this. They've opted out. They said that this is a threat, to their domestic control and control of their sovereign rights, and rightly so. Canada doesn't seem to get it. I'll be raising this with the Canadian delegation to see that, that this is something that we don't want to do. And Canada already has a strong regime for this kind of exporting thing. And despite that, we're still sending labs to Saudi Arabia that end up in Somalia. So, what is this thing?
Well, Canada is one of the larger arms exporters in the world.
Yes.
That's an uncomfortable truth for many people. They don't realize that. And in fact, the matter is it's big industry in Canada. That's what it is. We have an industry, and
yep.
I mean, I'm not critical of our Canadian industry or Canadian jobs and anything like that, but I am critical of liberal hypocrisy.
Lots of that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Maybe we haven't done this in a while, but maybe we should talk about some promotions that are going on currently with the NFA.
Sure.
And let's start with the because I said the buzzword earlier, the locked and loaded giveaway.
Nice.
Yeah, we have a Tavor X95, a SIG 1911 Spartan 245 ACP, Chris Vector, the non-restricted version in 9mm, and the LA K12 shotgun. So basically, any donation of $50 or more, but in sequence with $50, will get you an entry into possibly win this, right? It's a great package. You're taking home all 4 of these. We're not drawing 4 times, so you're taking the complete package. So you will be locked and loaded. And that is finishing up on October 15th. If you can't wait that long, we also have our t-shirt draw going on right now, and any purchase of a t-shirt will get you an entry into win. And right now it shows a mystery rifle, but we've already released it. It's a Bagheera, and it's a nice package, comes with a scope and everything. So that's not a bad deal. That you have not had enough yet. Have you had enough yet? T-shirt, right? I'm going to give one away tonight. So how are you going to win? Hashtag NFA Talk gets you an entry. So, put that in the comment section, and towards the end of the show, we'll draw for that.
That's hashtag NFA Talk.
So I'll put that up on the screen for you.
And we should start seeing those come on right now. Yeah, it's good. We've been pretty successful with our promotions, and as you know, our promotions go to help support our lobbying, our political, our legal efforts on your behalf. and we're doing fairly well with that. The Cassie Parker Premac case, KKS Tactical versus Canada, is chugging along quite well. Our next thing that we are expecting to be dealing with is the ruling on interventions. As you know, NFA is an intervener in the case, as well as being the funder for the first filed case, where we basically designed and funded and filed first under the auspices of Solomon Friedman from Ottawa. So we're first out of the traces for that, with a very focused case. And we chose not to be the gun lobby versus Canada. We wanted to make sure we had a compelling client, and that's what we found, and that's the way our approach is. May not sell us a lot of T-shirts, but it certainly might win us the case.
Right.
Well, you touched on us a little bit too, Sheldon, about the lobbying. I talked about this in the AGM, where last year we finished off with 24 formal lobbies, heads and above any organization out there that was supposedly doing lobbying, which they weren't. We were far and above, ahead of everybody there. This year, and we're into May now, we are up to 18 already. So I think we'll be surpassing that 24 relatively well. And of course, the other organizations out there, they're nowhere on the horizon, and they're just eating my dust.
Well, and it's quality that matters, right? When you're doing lobbying, you can't just be taking a picture, you standing by the same MP you've been talking to for 2, 3, 4 years or whatever. You can't just keep repeating the same thing. You need to be getting to new people, talking about the issues that matter, and making sure that people understand and get it.
And that's what we're doing, right? We are right now. I'm focusing on some senators. The C21 goes through the SECU committee. We will it'll end up there, and they need to know that a different perspective. And I can tell you that there's they don't call themselves liberal senators anymore, but they are liberals, right? And they welcome the different perspective, and I'll give them our narrative and our different points of views, and also suggested solutions to actually advance public safety, and I also say, and they say that's wonderful, but you can't you forget that this regime, that has a lot of things that are bad with it, that are persecuting us, also needs to be redressed. We can't just keep piling on new things that will work and leave the things that don't work, that persecute people, alone. That's not justice, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and this is the independent senators group, right? And they've appointed some pretty sketchy individuals from my perspective into that.
Yep.
Very, very much cultural Marxists, anarcho-Marxists, people who are very way out there in the left, who are going to end up backing the left of Senator Trudeau liberal agenda, and they're very clearly partisan, even though they're supposedly not. And I mean, this government's had a really bad record of appointments. I mean, we look at the recent Governor General appointment. The Governor General is in a very important office. It has an extremely important constitutional role, and the vetting of the person who was appointed to that role was not done through due process. It was just done through basic woke philosophy. We'll pick somebody because this person looks good on paper, and that did not go well. It did not turn out well, and it hopefully has not damaged the importance of that office going forward. Because a lot of people looked at this and they went, "Oh, it's the problem is the office," and I go, "No, the problem is you're supposed to pick a person who is to do that role, who can do the role well and will carry themselves well and represent their country well and be a proper representative of the head of state." And it's shocking. And I mean, next year we've got the Platinum Jubilee for Queen Elizabeth coming up, and I hope that this Liberal government understands the importance of recognizing that particular aspect, and that they don't do anything more to damage our country during this time, if they're still in office.
That's a really good point, Sheldon. But it's not just the Governor General. I mean, the rot is deep within our parliamentary system. We all remember a time when there were some first class, very intelligent, righteous people that that would vie to become politicians and made great progress for this country. We seem to be attracting a lot of fringe activists that now pretend to be politicians on our behalf, and they're making a mess. And of course, the casualty is our faith in this democracy. And this doesn't go into a good place.
No, it certainly doesn't. And I know you combine that with the events of the last year and a half, the COVID-19 situation. People are fed up. They're not seeing the kind of leadership they're seeing in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, frankly. And they're starting to question. And the questioning is being attacked and shut down, and it's not okay. There are legitimate views about all of this stuff going on, and there needs to be the ability to question critically and to have legitimate and responsible dialogue and answers about people's concerns and questions. And I just don't see that happening. And it's the same thing about the Firearms Act. I mean, we have legitimate concerns and issues that we're raising, and we're not getting the respect that we properly deserve as a significant part of Canadian society. And it's not okay. It's not okay. And I mean, like I said to everybody, never give up your guns, and certainly never trust anyone who wants to take them away or limit your access to them or tell you that this gun is bad and that gun is less bad or something like that. Don't trust them. They're lying, and they want your stuff. And God knows what else they want. If they want your guns, they probably want some other things too.
No compromise.
No, none. No compromise.
Let's give a shirt away.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
I like doing giveaways.
It's Santa Claus.
Right. All right. So let's bring that up. What do we have? We have 8 entries. So it's last chance, guys. Hashtag NFA Talk to get your entry in. Good odds. I mean, you're fighting against 8 other people. I'll give you another minute. And just to show you what we're giving away. We're giving away this T-shirt. Have you had enough yet?
Hashtag NFA. There we go. There's a few more coming in now. Now we're in the double digits. Yay! And they're coming around the track.
The first one we did was great. We were close to about 90 people, was it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Now we're getting more now.
Mind you, the weather's getting warmer out there, and at least in Ontario here, the weather was great today. So I'm sure there's still people outside enjoying the social distancing.
Well, they're welcome to come over and enjoy watching me try to put my lawnmower back together. All right.
Okay, I tell you what. Let's run this.
Sure thing.
Here we go, guys.
Tammy.
Awesome. All right, Tammy, if you can do me a favor and send me an email and send that to nfatalk@nfa.ca. We'll get your information, your shipping address, and we'll have one shipped out to you.
Congratulations.
Thanks for listening in. What else do we need to chat about today, guys? Have we bashed the horse enough, or do we need anything else? Any issues that are out there?
I think we covered the promotions. We covered C10. We covered the AGM. We covered quite a bit tonight.
Not bad. And
we're
actually UN stuff.
We're kind of ahead of schedule too, because usually we're scrambling towards our 1 hour mark, right?
Well, I think we've done pretty well. Yeah, it's a good time to get out there in the summer. I hope everyone gets some time out at the range, get some trigger time in, get some relaxation, enjoys time with family and friends, gets around the barbecue grill, and has a good fun summer. It's a summer I've got planned for sure, and we're going to keep fighting your rights. When the MPs start coming home in the summer, and when there's an election called, whether it's going to be the fall or it's going to be sooner, my money's on the fall right now. You can bet that the barbecue circuit's going to be going as restrictions ease up, and you're going to see more and more people coming home, and they're going to want to hear your views. Make sure you tell them what you think about what's going on in Ottawa, and tell them you've had enough.
Absolutely. So I think we'll cut it there for tonight. Just a couple comments were coming in that people want that T-shirt. It is available at nfa.ca in our store. You can purchase it there and wear it proud.
Wear it proud, wear it loud.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back shortly.
All the best.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NFA Talk. Like and follow the NFA on social media and sign up to become a member.